Hi, and welcome back to ITC568. Today I'm going to look at some guidance for assignment 3. This is another rather interesting assignment that we have. So again, this is worth 20%. It's due on the 13th of September. This time we're doing a PowerPoint presentation. So 25 pages, 25 slides maximum, and it's submitted through EASTS. So the scenario is the same as the last time. The DAS, Department of Admin Services, moving to the shared services model. So they're going to centralise services, including HR, personnel management, payroll, etc., for whole of government. So everybody will eventually have to centralise all their stuff, their data, into DAS, so it can be consolidated in one of their databases, which will then be rolled out to the other departments and the agencies within government. And of course, there's that the government mandate of the cloud-first approach to the acquisition or updating of software and services. So following on from that strategic approach, government has decided that they're going to purchase a HR and personnel management application from a US-based company, which is a software as a service type solution. So you'll get from DAS, will be provided with a HR suite that gives them a complete HR suite, including performance management. So this is a cloud-based thing, as we said, software as a service. The main database is located in a cloud data center based in California in the US, and a replica database located in their cloud data center in Dublin in Ireland. However, all the data processing, configuration, maintenance, updates, feature releases, etc., come out of the management suite providers processing center in Bangalore in India. So at this stage, employee data will be uploaded from DAS daily at midday, initially transferred to Bangalore for processing before it's loaded up into the main provided database in California. So that's the outline of the scenario, and I recommend that you go over that in the subject outline and read it carefully before you go on any further. So what we've got to do here, we've had a successful engagement to provide a privacy and security risk assessment for DAS, and you've now been engaged to consider additional questions that senior management at DAS has raised. So now you need to prepare a presentation for them using the threat and risk assessment that you've done in assignment 2. And your presentation is to show initially, let's look at the first 2 questions. Discuss whether the operational solution using a software as a service application and the locations of the SaaS provider for HR management may affect the security posture of DAS. So in this case, we're looking at the security posture of DAS. The second question is discuss whether that operational solution, the operational locations or both, act to increase or mitigate the threats and risks identified for security and privacy for employee data. Now I've lumped these 2 together because they are both kind of related to each other. And so some of the stuff you're going to come up with to answer question 1 may well reflect in question 2 and vice versa. So this is where you need to now flesh out how you saw all those risks and threats in assignment 2. You need to explain to management how you think the solution and the different locations that it's going to be operating from affects these issues, and give some examples where you can. So what you're doing now is you're taking the work you've done in assignment 2 and you're now looking at it and possibly doing a little bit more research around it in order to provide management with some information about the issues that you see arising out of this particular operation. Question 3 then takes you on to discuss the security and privacy implications of the data processing location. And you need to be able to consider now what are the implications here, and by now you should have had some time to consider these quite well, and you should be able to discuss it in some detail. Question 4 is to discuss any issues of data sensitivity that you think should be considered with the chosen solution and or the storage processing locations. So now you've got to consider, because this is a new question that hasn't arisen before, are there any data sensitivity issues? What is data sensitivity? What should be considered here? Has DAS indicated anything at all in its approach? So go back to the scenario and have another look. How would you approach this? Right? Management obviously thinks there might be some data sensitivity issues here. They've not given you any guidance on what they think data sensitivity is or where it applies. Research, guys, you've got to come up with some answers here. Finally, the last question that management's looking for is a discussion on any issues of data sovereignty that you think should be considered. And this is not, data sovereignty, again, hasn't been mentioned at all so far. So is there an issue here? And this is where you've now got to start to think about some of the issues that DAS may need to consider. And this will actually feed into some of your other assignments coming down the track. So start to think about data sovereignty at this stage. So your constraints are in this. You've got to present in either PowerPoint or Google Slides, one of the two. You have 25 slides maximum, including your introduction, conclusions and recommendations. Now each slide should have some speaking notes in that notes section, which is not visible normally in the slideshow, which expand on the information in the slide. If you're using any images or quotations in a slide, you've got to reference it on that slide. So you can put a little text box, as I often do in my lectures, to say this is the reference for this particular thing. You need a reference list on your slide deck, and all those references are to be included in a reference list slide or slides. These are not counted as part of your slide deck limit, so that can go over the 25. So what you're doing in your presentation is highlighting the significant points of your argument, and you should include the detail about that in the speaking notes section of your slides. So you've now finished your risk assessment. You've got to answer some specific questions for senior management that result from it. So your approach here is probably that of the senior technical advisor to management. You should be across the technical details that management is not completely aware of or has only some limited understanding of. So your task is to lay out these issues and options so that management can make an informed decision. Remember, like most presentations to management, you're going to have to be concise and accurate, provide additional material and references if they're required, and that's where the speaking notes section comes in. Make a logical argument, and you will have to provide recommendations that proceed directly from those arguments. Finally, again, we're extending this example of the real-world problem, right? As I said last time, this idea of shared services has been the aim and the bane of many governments and private industry over the years, and we've all seen some fairly spectacular failures. A couple of successes, but not many. So now you have to research and argue a position for DAS senior management to adopt. So this is another essential step in this process of trying to secure our data and privacy. Once again, you're now nice and deep in a current problem that has considerable issues that must be considered, particularly in a cloud ecosystem. And so this assignment is designed to try and help you research and consider those issues and think about how would you approach them in your enterprise. It's a kind of interesting problem. I wish you the very best of luck.